So if you just eliminate all instances of this occurrence, boom, you might just get a 5% spike on booking rates right then and there.
Hey, welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan. Today we've got on Tyson Chen. He is the co-founder of Avoca AI, and we had a great conversation around CSRs, what the call center should look like, what the call center or the culture should look like within the call center a little bit too. Thad, what were some of your favorite nuggets from this episode?
The data driven parts of things, booking rate and knowing what that should be. But there was one that we talked about, and it was abandon rates. And I don't think a lot of people are familiar with that particular term, so pay attention to that part of the episode. Tyson, how about yourself? What was your favorite takeaway?
Yeah, for me, I think it was definitely around how do you incorporate AI into the call center, and really, there's three stages that I like to think about things, and yeah, you have to watch the show to find out what those are.
I love those three stages. Those were good. Those are really good. So, and last, but in this case, definitely least, Evan, what was your takeaway?
One, I have to admit, Avoca fascinates the hell out of me. I think it's fantastic. So definitely listen to the second half of the show where we go deeper on how to incorporate AI. But the idea of establishing the brand early in the conversation when your CSR is on the phone, it's bridging that gap between the website and your CSR and now the experience that the customer is having with your business. And Tyson talked exactly on how to do that with your CSRs and to make sure that you're incorporating that into the call center experience. So, but we do want to hear from you. Leave a comment down below. What was your favorite nugget from this episode? And enjoy the show. Hey, welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan, where we have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. It's a little early, but why not?
Cheers. I'm back in the office finally.
Welcome back, bud.
Thank you. It was a fun time. It was a good sabbatical and then traveling for business. And so here we are back in the swing of things. So, and I even got a tan too. I'm not pasty white Canadian.
It doesn't look like it. You probably could have used some more sun.
Yeah, probably. But hey, you know what? When you only have 10 days down there and kids that nap. So anyways.
Absolutely. Well, I'm super excited for today's show. We're going to be diving into all things CSRs and call center, how to manage them, how to train them, work with them. What are the KPIs? What are the metrics? What are we looking for? And we're talking today with Tyson Chen. He is the co-founder of Avoca AI. It's an AI-powered voice assistant that increases call volume, manages bookings, and provides intelligent customer service. So we'll get into the software into the second half of the show, but we really want to dive into the trainings and the attention that the call center needs, especially as we start to head into a busier time of year. It's starting to warm up down south, and we want to make sure that our call center is on the up and up and everyone's ready to handle the volume and be able to serve customers in the best way possible. Take advantage of every single opportunity. Anything to add?
Nailed it.
As per usual.
Right. No, you are right. Right. It's the sales folks tend to get all the glory, and other individuals within inside of businesses. This isn't just HVAC specific or plumbing specific. It's just standard that they tend to get overlooked, and not by any really wrong reason or neglect on the behalf of the individuals. It's just that's just what happens, right?
Yep.
But they're also an integral part. I mean, you think about your CSRs; those are the first interaction with your company, and it's super important to dial that in to make sure it's detailed and documented, and you have everything in place, because that's where customer experience starts on the website, but then it matches when they have the in-person interaction with the CSR. So I'm excited to dive into today's show.
You got it. And at the end of the day, if you want more sales opportunities, you need more at bats. And that's what the CSR sets you up with.
100%. So, and today's show would not be possible without our sponsors, and in no particular order: CHIIRP, Elite Call, Coach2Close, and On Purpose Media. So let's go ahead and read out the Elite Call one first. So Elite Call is a US-based call center champion for the home service industry. 20 years. Elite Call has been outbounding client databases, filling dispatch boards with lucrative service and sales appointments, and boosting memberships like no others. They're basically an extension of your CRM. And don't let your competitors get ahead. Let Elite Call connect with your customers. Visit elitecall.net to learn more.
Sweet. And well, if you've got more opportunities on the board, you're going to make sure you want to close those opportunities. And your technicians, they have those daily opportunities, but they're there to fix things. They're not the greatest salespeople, nor do you necessarily want them to be. And that's where Coach2Close really comes in, because they help out and fix that gap and bridge that gap, allowing your technicians to focus on the repairs and giving you that call by call management that is so difficult to implement in a seamless way. But don't just take our word for it. One of their clients took their average ticket from $600 to $1,000 in just 3 weeks. And then they went ahead and added it up to another $1,500 5 weeks after that. Tremendous, tremendous opportunity. Visit coach-2-close.com to book your demo today.
Cool. And certainly last but not least would be CHIIRP. And this is where I really like it. It's the ultimate automation toolbox. It helps you capture more leads, connect instantly, and skyrocket your sales. It integrates seamlessly, like a lot of other places, a lot of other things, with ServiceTitan HubSpot Pro. Does automated text messages, emails, ringless voicemails. It can boost your Google reviews and your customer loyalty with their proven rehash programs. Schedule your demo today and get an exclusive 25% off your first 3 months. Visit chirp.com/HSSR to boost your sales today. And since Evan, I read his message, he does not have the on-purpose media readout pulled
I just
up.
pulled it up.
Okay, well, I got it. So enhance your online presence with on-purpose media, your go-to home service marketing experts. Stunning user-friendly websites, check mark. Increased visibility on search engines, big old check mark. And targeted traffic through effective pay-per-click ads. Yep, you got it. So let's turn your online presence into a lead-generating powerhouse. Visit onpurposemedia.ca to start your digital transformation and watch your home service company thrive in the digital world. And without further ado, we'll be back in a flash with old Tyson.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
Giddy up, just like
Nice.
that. He's transported through the wild world of technology to be on our screen with us.
Hey guys, great to be here. Great to see you guys again.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Tyson. Appreciate it. It was a pleasure meeting you in person. Briefly there down in, oh gosh, where were we?
Chicago,
right, at AHR, hanging out at the after party with our friends from Service Business Mastery Podcast. Yeah, welcome, Tyson.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, been a huge fan of your guys' podcast for quite a while now, and so it's a pleasure to be on the show.
Tyson, why don't you walk us through how you got your journey into the trades? What was it about the trades that really attracted you to it? And because I know you have the technology background, but why were the home services such an attractive space for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So quick TLDR on myself and kind of my journey into the trades was basically my whole career was pretty concentrated in the world of tech and AI. That's how I initially met my co-founder. We met in a voice AI lab back at MIT, did a lot of more foundational research. And then, we started the company a bit over 2 years ago, primarily because my co-founder's family is in the HVAC space in Michigan. And as we kind of learned more about it, we realized, hey, this is an area where it's extremely underserved by technology, and AI can actually make a huge difference. And so my earliest kind of exposure was actually doing a ton of cold calls. I would cold call a lot of, actually a lot of handyman. Was initially a lot of the folks we talked to, handyman cleaners. And it was fun. I was kind of pitching and telling them about, having how would you like to have an AI assistant that can take calls 24/7. So at some points, a funny story was that I was on a cold call, and they actually, the person I was talking to thought that I was an AI for the longest time. And so they're asking me all these questions about prove to me that you're not an AI. And I was like, well, would an AI be able to tell you, because AI isn't able to tell you about current events,
Right.
At that point, at least. And so I was like, oh, did you know that the Warriors won yesterday by this much? And so they're like, okay, yeah, you're a real person.
It's funny. I was having a conversation just this week with a friend of mine, and we were talking about AI answering services and what that's going to mean for just business in general. And there is going to be ways that you're going to be able to tell whether it's an AI or a person, such as that. And even just the nuances of human speech and how people respond, I feel like is still going to be a big part of it. But when we talk about CSRs and answering services, because that's really where you fill the gap here in the industry. Why is it that you feel like they get pushed to the back burner and something that just doesn't get enough attention in the office?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great question. I think there's a few different reasons, right? I think one is when you immediately think about any business, the part that's not just HVAC, plumbing, any business, the part that generally gets the most glory are the folks at the forefront actually producing the revenue and the sales. And HVAC, my background's in tech, so you look at SaaS companies, anyone, it's always the sales guys are kind of the most get the glory and get the attention. And so I mean, similar to HVAC, right? You think about who's the one that's ultimately bringing back the bread for the company, who's out there making the money. And it's obviously the sales folks. It's obviously the technicians are actually doing the jobs, the folks that are closing the deals. But I think that at the end of the day, I think as Thaddeus mentioned, a part that is often neglected but is extremely important is actually the CSRs, because almost every job starts from a phone call, and so that's that initial impression, and you can't possibly make the sale unless you book the customer for an initial appointment, right? And so if you think about it from that funnel perspective, having a really strong operation and thinking about it from a very kind of data-driven perspective is very important to actually succeeding in this business.
You mentioned a strong operation, and I think this is important piece of the puzzle here. To know, okay, well, your strong operation matching the CSR, matching that customer experience. In looking at, I guess, some of the common pitfalls that somebody should shore up from an operational perspective to be able to help the CSR team, what would you tell somebody?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. So one is, a very important thing to maybe, I always like to think about things as what is the end goal and what does excellence look like, and then work backwards from there. So, in this industry, one of the biggest problems is that CSR role in itself is not a super desirable role. Like a lot of people don't necessarily view being a CSR as their long-term plan. And so what that leads to is that the position itself is a bit of a revolving door where, people come, go, the average tenure is usually under a year. And so, that obviously poses a lot of problems. But taking the end goal perspective, I think some of the most important metrics that you got to be thinking about are, probably the ones that most people already know, but booking rates, abandonment rates. Those are two of the main ones. And I think really, your booking rate for a good call center operation should be in the mid to upper 80s, if not better. And so what I mean by that in particular is out of all the leads that are interested in getting service, how many are you actually booking into appointments and jobs? And then abandonment rate refers to more, of all the people that call, how many are actually connecting. So you need to connect them, and then you need to book them, right? And so the abandonment rates should be less than 4% generally. And then your booking rates should be in the mid to upper 80s, if not higher. And so to do that, I think there's a variety of different things that need to happen. You need to have your staffing correct. You have to have a good after hours call center, and then you also need and that's more for abandonment rates, so that you're able to field every call. You need to be able to staff correctly in your busiest seasons and have some flexibility there. And then on top of that, so those are all the abandonment things, so that you're actually taking the call. And then the things that you need to have a successful operation beyond that, or there, obviously there's a lot of different coaching frameworks, but I think some of the key things are, you need to have a process in place for handling objections the right way, and like price objections, all these things, and then the other thing is that you really need to establish the brand early on in the call.
I think there's a lot of great things that were said just now, and it's worthwhile to go back. And I mean, obviously highlight a couple of those: booking rate, mid to upper 80s, super, super important. It's the at-bats that Evan alluded to at the very beginning of the show. I mean, if you have more at-bats and you can book more, when we think about it, if you have 100 calls, the difference between a 40% booking rate and 80% booking rate, 40 to 80 calls, right? Like that's a huge difference just by increasing the booking rate. But one thing that I liked is that you said is the abandon rate, right? I think a lot of people, and that's one of the first times that I think heard it phrased that way. And it's essentially what, from what I understood, less than 4% is the amount of calls that aren't answered by a person, right? Am I understanding that correctly?
Exactly.
So if you get
That don't go to
100 calls,
voicemail,
that don't go to voicemail, right? And so that's also a key metric. I love that one because here's what the thing is: a lot of guys, and some people might be listening to this and they might be by themselves and they can't get every single call. Okay, great. There's ways that you can rent that service out, right? There's a part-time options for somebody to answer your phone for you, but making sure that that's a powerful piece. I want to kind of go on the objection side of things, the process for objections. Walk us through. So somebody's hearing this for the first time, like, process for objections. What? I just say whatever comes to mind. Walk us through creating this process for objections, and how would you put that in place into a business?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's definitely a variety of folks that really specialize in this, and so I can generally give some guidance, but there are more professional folks to look at. There's also a lot of content online. Generally, for objections, there's a few key things to keep in mind. One is that you never want to say anything that is at all negative, right? Any even generally negative phrases like, "Hey, unfortunately, we don't have anyone today. Unfortunately, we're booked out till later." Even things like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have any spots." You want to avoid all of these things. You want to avoid anything that has a negative connotation, like, "Oh, yeah, unfortunately, we have $159 dispatch fee." So those things are just kind of level one things to avoid. And then beyond that, a lot of objection handling is painting the positive, right? So I'll just give you a canonical example. Is when folks ask about, hey, I don't want your technician to come out. I don't want to spend $159 just for someone to come out. Just give me the price right now.
Right.
That's probably the most common objection, and you really want to have a good manual on how to. It differs by business, but I think a general strategy in handling this objection is explaining that there's wide variance, that you don't want to misprice them on something that can be very different. Use the opportunity to explain your brand and why you're different than your competitors, and then also talk about how you need to actually come out in order to give the right diagnostic so that they get the right service, so that they're not actually losing money. So basically, being able to I think a large theme in all of this is that even the role of the CSR has a lot of sales elements. So you really want to treat this in a very analytical and proper way.
I like that.
No, and I think the important thing is that you've got a script, right? You're providing your CSRs with the right tools to be able to handle those objections. And then are you rehearsing them? Are you role playing them? Are you practicing them daily to make sure that they're sharp on those skills? Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I know when we get
if you have a good way to evaluate that as well, right? You want to coach them, you want to teach them, but then how do you actually? It's like a sport as well, right? It's like you get the practice, but then you get the coaching, but you need to implement that on a day-to-day basis so that it becomes a habit, and it's basically second nature to them.
Absolutely. No, and sports is the only real, football specifically, baseball too. They're two great examples of practicing 3 times as much as you play, right? Every single day that a player is playing even baseball, they take batting practice, they take on-field practice, right? Pitchers throw in between sessions, they're throwing constantly. Football, they're practicing for 4 or 5 days, plus watching film before every single game, right? You're practicing so much more than you're actually on the field playing the game. You get 3 at-bats in a baseball game, 3 to 5.
Yeah.
Right? You
And
get
then
15 minutes on the field for if you're on either side of the ball.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I
So
think there's all that. That itself is also a good point. Before any CSR, you actually kind of go live with them, I would recommend at least 1 month of training
yep.
to make sure that they have all the protocols. Because again, this is actually very important. This is the first impression you're making on a potential new customer, and that customer, if you get them for life, has an enormous lifetime value, right? If thinking, potentially in the 6 digits, right? So you want to make sure that that initial impression you make well, and that you're closing at a high rate. Another point on the closing rate is, and this gets to kind of another level, which is probably even a little bit beyond just booking rates. But one thing to really keep in mind is, are you actually calculating your booking rate in the right way? And specifically,
Mm-hmm.
what I'm talking about is that denominator, right? You can obviously classify leads as there's obviously obvious leads, but then a lot of times when you are letting the CSR classify the lead themselves, there's mistakes. And so I think another point to keep in mind is that there are actually a lot of leads that may not initially seem like leads, but that can be turned into leads, right? So like someone's calling for a question, but they're a past customer. Well, you can actually just redirect that conversation right into essentially a sales conversation. So there's a lot of things there where I think there can be a lot of kind of opportunities to improve just general handling processes and operations. And from my experience, the companies that really have a tight script and a tight process for this are the ones that are able to really excel.
Well, and I'm glad you took it in this direction, because that was a question that I wrote down, was what is a qualified lead? So in your opinion, what determines someone to be a qualified lead?
Yeah. So in my opinion, a qualified lead is anyone who you may be able to provide service to, whether they
Yep.
know it or not. There's obviously the obvious qualified leads for the ones that are directly asking, "Hey, my heater is broken. I need someone to fix it."
Yep.
But there are a lot of people that actually need service. They just don't know it yet, and those are also leads.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, I have always told our clients, it's 2 things: service you provide in the area you provide it. That's it. Right. And when we do give CSRs this ability to mark it as a qualified lead or not, or disqualify those calls simply because they couldn't book it. Because, for example, like you said earlier, if our dispatch board is full, we've got no openings in the next 3 days. Well, that's still a good lead to the business, and you need to
Absolutely.
qualify it as such, right?
Yep.
We just weren't able to book it, potentially because of a lack of training, a lack of coaching. Maybe they said one of those negative connotation words, right? Unfortunately, we can't get you in until Friday.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Simple tweaks and training can then end up turning those into booked opportunities for your staff. And of course, there's also the process of dispatching for dollars and making sure that you do have those openings in your schedule. And like Ryan Shute talked about last week, overstaffing your company so that you've got that availability, and then you fill it with the outbounding services like from Elite Call, where and even CHIIRP through text messaging and emails, being able to fill your dispatch board with the outbounding when you've got the availability and there's the lack of demand.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the CSR role is, I think, quite a misunderstood role because
Mhm.
normally, when you first think of CSR, you think about it primarily in the context of customer service. And customer service, generally, broadly speaking, is a role that is more like, customer has an issue. You kind of, if it's a tech company, it's like, oh, it's like you already have the customer and you're providing them service because they have an issue. But really, if you think about it more deeply, like the CSR role in the world of home services is is a bit of a sales role too, because you're actually needing to. A lot of times, it's a customer you don't. It's a potential customer, and you need to sell them on booking something, and you're essentially selling them on at least they're going to be a potential customer, and they're also paying obviously whatever diagnostic fee you have. So yeah, I think that's something that I think is kind of a mentality shift, but really viewing the CSR role itself as a bit more sales oriented, which may not be initially intuitive.
But it's a key distinguishing factor when you look at just about having them, because you are right, they do have to have an element of sales within there.
Hmm.
Now, the other part too is there's a difference too between the inbound versus outbound sales aspect of things, right? And so
Absolutely.
CSR is more of an inbound sort of a thing. Now, the outbound part of it, what Elite Call does in CHIIRP, and I think Coach2Close has some elements of it too in different areas. They're outbounding. That's a different mindset. That's a different breed of a person as well versus the inbound person because of the rejection, et cetera, et cetera. And so you
Mhm.
nailed it right on the head. One thing that I wanted to touch on is you mentioned LTV, lifetime value. And this goes
Yeah,
back to that third point that you mentioned was establish the brand early on in the call,
yep,
right? And this is this is yeah, this will be right after Dan Antonelli's heart, is that the brand is an important piece, right? Now you think about this whole continuity, this whole process, right? If you have a great van wrap and a great logo, a great experience on the website, and then you shit the bed when they answer the call,
yeah,
like there's a disconnect, right? And
yeah,
making sure that there's this continuity through the brand, the whole process and the whole way through.
yeah.
How would you go? And I know some of it's already kind of been answered in terms of the way that you do it with the objections and the process and all those sorts of things. How do you go about making sure that you establish that brand early on in a call?
Absolutely. So I think there's a few things on this note that I'll touch upon. One is you want to establish a brand identity, right? What does the brand mean, and how do you want to position it in the mindset of the consumers in your market, right? You're in a market. It could be a lot of our customers are very competitive markets, like a Dallas or Chicago. There's tens, perhaps hundreds of alternatives that your customers could be going to. What do you want them to remember you by? And so again, it's kind of like what I said earlier, starting with that end goal and then working backwards, right? So what do you want your brand to be known for? We have one of our customers down in Florida. Her brand is all about she kind of hinges on a very on two things. One is red carpet service, and two is kind of white glove. And so those are words that she wants everyone to mention, from the initial call to the technician to the after thing, and then that's kind of the theme that is espoused throughout the entire customer interaction. And so when you think about what you want that brand to represent, and then work backwards, and okay, so in order for us to provide red carpet service, what does that mean for the calling experience? What does that mean for the actual service experience, the follow-up experience? When you're really able to establish that, I think what that allows you to do is the next time that caller has an issue, they're not looking to shop around 5 6 different places. They had a good experience with you. They're like, oh, I don't want to take any chances, I'm just going to go with these guys again. And that is how you get a customer for life.
All great points. And again, it's working that backwards, right? From the shit we just went through this with EOS, the entrepreneur's operating system, and looking at your ideal customer avatar, in working that backwards from there of saying, okay, well, the everything that you want of your ideal customer, and then working that backwards too helps that.
Well, and
All
if you really want some good tips on differentiating your brand in the marketplace, go back and listen to last week's episode with Ryan Shute. He gives some great pointers, some great questions that you can ask, and ways to transform and turn those traditional features of the business, superior customer service and and all of that jazz. We provide 30 years of experience. Well, what does that mean to a customer? And then how do you transform that into something that's unique for your business? So go back and listen to that episode for that.
I might have to. I wasn't on that show. I was on an airplane. All right. Random question generator, one of the favorite parts of the show. And the random question generator is brought to you by On Purpose Media, where our content is so engaging. It's been accused of charming the socks off the internet. That is a good one. So, all right, you actually, well, you're familiar with how the process goes. You get to choose if you want question 1, 2, or 3. You don't get to know what the questions are until you choose. So which question do you want us to read out? 1, 2, or 3?
I'll go with 3. That's my lucky number.
All right. What is the biggest conspiracy theory that you believe in?
That's not going to get you kicked off the internet.
Yeah, we'll get you canceled. We'll get you canceled. This could be a Pandora's box here. Let's be real.
Let's see here. Biggest conspiracy theory is that
the Hoover Dam actually houses transformers.
I think that there were I'll go with the aliens one. Yeah, I think that there was actually a UFO. That they've been hiding it from us. There's an intelligent species away from Earth.
There you go. Do you think they built the pyramids too?
I don't want to go that far, but yeah, I do believe in intelligent life outside of Earth, and maybe they're trying to send us a signal. I think it's that point where once we get advanced enough, we're gonna discover them.
I think that we already have, and I think that they've already been here, in my opinion. So I'm right with you on this conspiracy theory. Like, just look up at the night sky away from city lights and see everything out there. How could it not be possible?
Yeah.
It's just vast. Like it just because we haven't discovered or we know or we've been told.
Yeah.
It has to be out there.
I mean, just probabilistically too. I mean, if there's infinite worlds, you must imagine that one world has to be significantly more advanced than us and have been around long enough. So, yeah, even probabilistically, it's probably true.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I used to watch Ancient Aliens on the History Channel a long time ago. I should have put that in our random team trivia facts from last week on Friday. I used to watch Ancient Aliens. That guy with the crazy hair. It's the aliens, man.
Right.
I remember one of my favorite movies, Aliens versus Predators. Have you seen that?
Great movie. Yeah.
Yep.
I just love that comedian that comes on. I don't know if you guys have seen him on the reel that went around for a while, but he just comes out and he says, "So you're telling me that you're not going to believe in any conspiracy theories? You're just going to tell me that the government's batting 1,000 and that they're telling you the truth about everything?" Yeah.
What's your guys' conspiracy that you believe in?
I would probably have to go with you on that one about the whole alien side of things. That's the other one might be that the other part is that the whole moon landing one.
They faked the moon landing?
Yeah, you landed on the moon back in like whatever the 60s and 70s. Then you haven't went back in how long? And now you're having troubles landing on the moon again. So, but you're able to do it back 40, 50 years ago with old technology. So I think they actually did, and they have went back numerous times. They just haven't publicized it because there's something on there that they just don't want the world to know.
Oh, that's
my favorite though is that there's the camera angle of the rocket taking off and them leaving. It's like, how did you get the footage back from the camera that's still on the moon if you left?
Right?
That's true.
And how did you get a camera on the moon to record the first step? Somebody else had to have been on there first.
Exactly.
Yeah. That just reminds me of I don't know if you guys watched The Simpsons, but they had an episode about I think about conspiracy theories, and
Mhm.
there's one about the moon landing, and he's like, and it's like they show the clip, and then the guy is the actual astronaut is walking out of a green screen room, and they're like, well, you're supposed to be on the moon.
Sounds
I
about
love
right for
that
The
one.
Simpsons to make fun of it. So,
Yeah. And I think my favorite though, and we're probably going to get canceled in Canada for this, is that Fidel Castro is Justin Trudeau's father.
Oh,
uh,
I'll give you one that okay, I'll give you one actually that just popped to mind. I'm a big basketball nut. I love the NBA. I love basketball growing up. And my favorite NBA conspiracy theory is that Michael Jordan is Jimmy Butler's illegitimate father. You guys know about that one? Because basically,
I did not hear that
it's
one.
crazy. Well, first of all, they're similar sizes and they kind of look similar as well. They have similar like facial structure. But then the biggest thing is that anytime Jimmy Butler plays in the playoffs, or yeah, gets in the playoffs, the team is not a great team. You know, they're usually the sixth, seventh, or eighth seed, but then he just
He
goes
just goes off.
off, like
Yeah.
absolutely off. Super clutch, incredible defense, and so yeah, that's probably the one that a more like realistic one
I
that
mean,
I
if
also
he had the
believe.
tongue hanging out every time he drove to the rack, then I would say yeah, maybe, but he doesn't have the tongue. I don't know.
Yeah, because
I'm sure we could
also
keep.
yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sure we could keep going down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole for probably a good hour and a half. But I do want to walk back because I do have the hard stop. And I guess this kind of goes in line with aliens and futuristic technology. AI, it's
Oh,
here, and yeah, I know it's a pretty far stretch for bridging those two together. But I went there. So, but you think about AI, right? And AI has been everywhere as of late in
yeah,
the last year and a half, really
absolutely,
making strides, and especially on the CSR front.
totally.
What are you seeing in the marketplace for? I mean, obviously, you guys have Avoca and your guys' AI software, but there's a lot out there. How can one blend and we'll get you to talk about Avoca here too. How can one blend AI technology with their CSRs to help, I guess, be better, augment it in together in one, blend it to enhance the customer experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a few ways. So one, I think there's different levels to it, right? So um, first thing that you mentioned earlier in the show that I just want to quickly point out as it relates to CSRs is again, yeah, I think if especially in this industry, you want to make sure that you're not losing calls. So you should have some type of whether it's an after hours answering service or a virtual assistant that you could hire or someone else, some team members, family, someone should be handling all your calls because a very important statistic to point out is that 80% of calls that go to voicemail, they're not going to call you back. They're not going to even think about you. They're calling a competitor. So that's just a lot of opportunity that you are leaving on the table if you're not doing this, right? And
Yep.
so, for us, when we talked to a lot of folks early on, a lot of those cold calls I was making, um, we realized that people didn't really care about that much because they were kind of man in the van. You know, they're more like family, like small businesses. But if you're trying to, I guess this is more for people that are trying to really grow their business and they want to become, let's say you're doing 1 or 2 million, you're trying to get to 5 or 6 million. Say if you're doing 500K, you're trying to get to like 2, 3 million. If you're trying to grow business, you should definitely be having a someone handle all your calls. Um, and then, yeah, to your point on AI and CSRs, I think there's really two stages, right? First stage is how do you use AI to enhance your existing call center operations? So in this first stage, I think there's a few elements. I think one is you can use AI training tools. So kind of like if you're a pilot, you take a bunch of simulation training before you actually fly the plane. Similar, having AI help to train your folks, and then while they're actually on the job, I think AI can be an extremely powerful tool to make sure that the CSRs are doing a good job. Give you one very basic example. There's a statistic where anytime your CSR places a customer on hold for more than 7 seconds, there is a 20% chance that that customer just ends the call, right? And
Wow.
so if you just eliminate all instances of this occurrence, boom, you might just get a 5% spike on booking rates right then and there. And so yeah, I mean that's just one particular example to kind of highlight this. But using an AI to monitor your calls end to end to make sure that your CSRs are doing their job properly, having the right enunciations, cutting down on filler words, being compassionate, speaking with confidence, all these general tips that allow you to have a good booking rate and allow the CSR to be effective, you can now monitor every call with AI. That's stage one. Stage two, as you alluded to, is the hybrid, right? You have a lot of calls every day where they're not revenue sensitive. So it's like, there may be people looking for jobs, spam calls, customer just leaving a message. Those you can, you can just directly allow AI to handle, and then only allow use your precious resources of actual CSRs to handle revenue sensitive cases. So that's kind of more like, first stage, have AI enhance your call center. Second stage, have a hybrid model where a percentage of your calls that are not revenue sensitive get handled by AI, and then the other portion get handled by your CSRs. And
How
then
would you
yeah.
filter? How would you filter that out? Sorry to cut you off, but I want to make sure we address this. How would you
I was
filter
gonna,
whether or not it's going to be a revenue sensitive call or not?
I was going to circle
Yeah.
back to that. So good thing you asked it.
Yeah. So the way I think about it is you don't necessarily need to think about it as filtering out right in the beginning, but you can filter out through the call. So you can allow the AI system to handle the call up until the point that you realize that it's revenue sensitive and they're trying to book a job, and then you switch over to a real person.
Got it. Okay.
And then stage
And
three,
as long as you're
yeah,
not putting them on hold for more than 7 seconds.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Well, the
I
7
was gonna
seconds
like.
is more like if they just pause for 7 seconds. If you're putting them on hold, they at least expect to be on hold for a bit. But a lot of times, what we find at Avoca is that a ton of our customers, they don't really know this, but especially with newer CSRs, they're like, a customer asks a question, they need to ruffle through papers or figure out how to respond. They don't even say anything. They give no warning, and boom, there's like a 7 8, sometimes there's like a 20-second delay, and they're not even saying anything. The customer's like, wait, did I just get disconnected? Just hang up the call.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the third option before I cut you off there.
The third part about incorporating AI is this is more in the future, but basically having AI run all your entire call center operation.
Right. And so they're answering the calls, they're booking it into your software, onto the dispatch board, all of it.
Exactly.
How far away do you think stage 3 is from becoming a reality?
Stage 3, I think, is I think it's really dependent on how complex your operations are. But I think if I were to give a rough timeline with the rate at which things are improving, I would estimate around 1 to 2 years.
Yeah.
And even that, I feel like
Yeah.
is long. Like I feel like it likely will come sooner than that, because
I think
even
for
at a
some
hybrid
people, yeah.
model, it really comes down to the business owner being able to implement it if they wanted
Right.
to.
Exactly. There's definitely some people that may just never want that, and then there's also some customers where, if you think about it this way, I think a good analogy is self-driving cars, because I actually worked in self-driving car industry for 3.5 years. Statistically, a self-driving car, by all metrics, may actually be in certain geographies is actually safer. There's a metric in the self-driving industry called MPCD, miles per critical disengagement, which is like how many miles on average does a self-driving car can drive before they get into an accident. versus how many miles a regular person can drive. Normally, for regular people, it's around 10,000 miles. Usually, there's an accident every 10,000 miles, just across the country on average. The high level, that's what it is. For certain self-driving cars, we got to the point where we were more like 12, 13,000. But at the same time, you're fighting against the natural inclination of people to have a distrust in automated systems, where anytime a self-driving car makes a mistake, it's over. I'm never going to trust this again. So there is a bit of that uphill battle that we face, and so that's why it's almost like not only does it have to be as good as a human, it may actually have to be better before there's widespread adoption.
Right. Well,
Absolutely.
and the other part too is, I go back to the self-driving car thing, is that decision fatigue or human fatigue, right, is real. And this is where you start to see a lot of errors come up. In fact, I was listening to an audiobook this morning when I was walking the dog. They're talking about the TSA and going through security. They used to have one person, one role, 7, 8 out, 9, 10 hours a day looking at the little fucking X-ray screen as your bags go through. Well, they start to miss shit, right? So what did the TSA do? Every 20 minutes, they start swapping people, right? And to keep it fresh. And so I think that's where we're leveraging even a stage 2 model when somebody's not having their best day on the phones, because we're all human, right? Now you can help enhance that experience. So, and that's kind of where I see it, right?
Yeah, and the one thing they talk about, what time of day are you most likely to get a not guilty conviction in a trial situation? And you are most likely to get a guilty conviction. The percentages go up significantly right before the coffee break, right before lunch, and right before the end of the day. Those are your worst times to get a not guilty rating, because the judge doesn't care. He's not listening. And he just says, guilty, done, bye, I'm out. Right. And so it's true. Your willpower throughout the day goes down. And so your ability to follow a script as a CSR, your ability to fight through with the objection, depending on the time of day, is going to change. That is a reality.
Yes, absolutely. And that's just a broader thing, exactly. Human nature. There's, especially for after hours, right? I think there's a certain degree of, standardization and consistency you can have with your full-time employees, but especially for after hours answering services, right? It's really tough to have any type of consistency. A lot of these folks are taking, calls for not just your company, but hundreds of other companies. And so to have the degree of, the charisma, the confidence, the compassion, the consistency, it's very tough. And so, yeah, that's one of the biggest things that Avoca solves, really. So, quick background on us. We've been we service 3 primary industries: HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. And we have 2 primary product lines. First is called Avoca Responder, and that solves this issue exactly. We have an AI call center that is able to consistently handle your calls and maintain a very high booking rate. Usually, folks start with after hours and then move during the daytime as they see how good it is. And then we also handle some basically text and web chat. So all of the different areas that you're able to engage customers and book them right into your CRM. And then the second is Avoca Coach, which is a coach for your CSRs. And it is able to monitor every single call and exactly a lot of the stuff I mentioned before, right? Cutting down on these long wait times, handling objections the right way, being able to promote your brand value in the right way. It's able to listen to every single call and give feedback and give a score to your CSRs so that they're able to consistently perform at a high level.
And I'm glad that you talked about Avoca. I think you probably read the private chat about Avoca and through that. And so you're essentially, what you guys are doing is stage 1 and stage 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
We're exactly stage 1, stage 2, and then ultimately we have a product that is more stage 3, which is the AI handles everything. And I would say folks usually start with our stage 1, stage 2, but then eventually get to stage 3.
Right. Well, it's getting their toe in the water, right? It's checking the pulse to see, hey, do I want to, well, I guess checking the temperature of the water. Do I want to jump all the way in, or do
Yeah.
I want to wade in slowly to get my feet wet? And really, you look at something like this. People probably start at stage one. Quite often, I
Yeah.
mean, that's just my assumption, right? Is working
Can
through that.
I'm curious if it can handle overflows too. So if it's,
Yep.
if it rang 3 times, nobody picked it up because, it went from one CSR to the next CSR to the next CSR. All of them were busy. They weren't able to pick it up. Can the AI then pick it up on the fourth ring?
Yes, exactly. That's a very popular. So our most popular product within Responder is exactly that product, which 24/7 coverage, and we're able to handle overflow and after hours. So after hours being evenings, weekends, holidays, and then overflow exactly as you described. 3 rings or 5 rings. Everyone's busy. Everyone's on a lunch break. Some people are in the bathroom. Maybe it's just a busy season. Storm comes. Way too many calls. We're able to handle those additional calls at a very high rate. And yeah, for us, we can handle it with our AI. We have a full AI agent, and then we also have a hybrid model as well. So,
Right.
both the hybrid, it's a completely US based call center that we have. So, yeah.
I love it.
Mhm.
One of the things that you and I had chatted about in Chicago, and I think even on the phone before that as well, was the coaching aspect of
Mm.
when you're working with a real life CSR and they make a mistake. And we have this in our business as well. In fact, we have a rule of 7. If we haven't repeated something 7 times, it's on
Mm.
us as teachers, as trainers, as leaders to make sure that they understand what this concept is and what it is that we're trying to teach them. And it's not on them
Exactly.
if they continue to make mistakes because we haven't taught it well enough. So when it comes to the AI component of things, it does make mistakes sometimes, right?
Yeah.
It says the
Yeah.
wrong thing. It didn't book them in the right way. It didn't get them scheduled the right way.
Yep.
The speed of implementation to never make that mistake again is what?
Yeah, it's once. So it makes the mistake one time, and you're able to correct that. You'll never make the same mistake again.
It's brilliant. It's the greatest learning model that exists. Uh, yeah, I can't believe I didn't think about it even before we had the conversation, but you brought it up, and I just found it. I mean, as a leader, so relieving.
Yeah,
Because how
exactly.
many times do you teach someone the same thing over and over and over again, and they're still making the same mistake?
And sometimes they'll make new mistakes too because they're new. There's a lot to learn. You might teach
Yeah,
them they got it right this time, but now you taught them 3 more things. Maybe they forgot the first thing. So it's
correct.
and especially the thing is, especially with questions, right? How many things can you really keep top of mind, at a time? Not that many.
Right,
So you
right.
have to refer to other things. The beauty with AI is instead of taking 10 seconds to flip through some screens or pages to find that nugget of information about what the customer asks, AI is able to do that in point oh 0.01 seconds.
Right. And that's the other part that I really love is that first step, the coaching aspect and being
Yep.
able to walk the CSR through, hey, here's the objection. And you don't have to be flipping through pages. You don't have to be looking at scripts. It's just there. This is what they
Yeah.
said. Here's how to respond.
Exactly. And really,
Mhm.
just to mention a bit more on the coaching side, yeah, that's definitely a place where a lot of our customers start. Generally speaking, in the first 3 months, they're able to see booking improvements of around 10 to 15%. And really, I like to bring the sports analogy back. It's all about the little things, right? Like not having those pause times. Just that alone, boom, instantly a few percentage points booking rates increase by be able to monitor that and be able to eliminate those. And just yeah, other things, being able to avoid negative words, being able to always respond to objections the right way, mentioning being able to mention membership plans, if you have membership plans. All those little things add up, and really it's all those little things that separate a really good CSR from an average CSR.
100%.
Mhm.
It's always about the little things. With the coaching component, I'm just curious, is it able to give any tips or feedback to the CSR on the temperament or the characteristics of the customer when they're
Yeah.
on the phone?
Yeah, no, I'm actually so glad you mentioned this. This is actually a new thing that we just implemented 3 months ago, which is so as I mentioned, both my co-founder and I, AI researchers is our background. A lot of the, you know, you know, most of the actual technology is based on the research that we did and is quite proprietary. So we have just incorporated an emotion detection platform into our coaching product line. What that allows now is two things. One, we're able to keep track of the CSR's own voice and understand, is the CSR speaking with empathy? Are they speaking with confidence? But then two, exactly as you are alluding to, we're actually able to identify the emotion of the uh, end user, of the actual customer. So we're able to real time identify, okay, what type of emotions are they? And one of the key metrics that we are able to have in our coaching module is the delta between the temperament of the customer at the end of the call versus the beginning of the call. And
That's
so the
cool.
reason that this is so valuable is, right, if you think about it, from the perspective of if the customer came in really upset, even if they're still upset, but they're a little bit less upset, well, then the CSR actually did a pretty good job. So a lot of our customers are now using this as an indicator of how the CSRs are doing. So as I mentioned before, like a very kind of statistical data driven way to improve your call center operations.
Right. Well, it gives a metric now to customer satisfaction in the
Yes.
CSR department.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And in the
That's really
future,
cool.
we don't have this right now. We're still working on this part, but what we're hoping to be able to accomplish in Q2 or Q3 of this year is the ability to uh, essentially identify a buying persona. So the AI is actually able to hear, and extremely skilled salespeople are able to do this like very well. Obviously, that's probably not your average CSR, but being able to analyze the temperament of the customer, what they're saying, and be able to provide a profile. So be able to say, okay, this is the type of customer who loves all the extras. You got to sell to them in this particular way. This is a customer that all they care about is getting what works and the cheapest product. This is how you need to approach and engage this customer. So having this kind of basically be able to provide a customer profile with the AI to tailor the way that you engage with the customer.
It's brilliant. And I know we use this analogy all the time in sales, is talking about rapport building
Yeah.
and trying to do the traditional format of rapport building, seeing a fish up on the wall and asking them if they like to fish, even though you hate fishing and know nothing about it, but you're trying to create conversation. So you start asking questions about it. Meanwhile, they are not a rapport builder and they just want to get to the point. You lose trust with this customer. You don't gain any. You put yourself further away from making a sale than you do moving towards it. It's the
Exactly.
equivalent of trying to give someone a hug who's a non-hugger. They don't want it. They will negatively view you from every moment moving forward because of that.
Yep.
So you need to make sure that you get on the same page as the customer. And this allows you to do that both with your CSRs on the phone and your salespeople after the fact.
Just a sidebar. It's fun hugging non-huggers because it makes them feel awkward. Okay. Caveat if you know them. Tyson, thank you so much for taking the time on today's show. We do, of course, want to promote you. And if anybody wants to get in touch with AVOCA, you can reach them at avoca.ai, AVOCA.ai. And if you want to get in touch with Tyson at avoca.ai. There's a few more links, but we didn't run those by you at the very beginning of the show. So I think the LinkedIn one, you said you're pretty big on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/company/avoca-AI. So a couple ways that you can get in touch with them. I know that on the website, there's a get started button. It pops up a Calendly link as well. So you can book directly in. Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah,
I was just going to say, for the
Calendly,
people who heard this and they're just like, take my money, I really want it. Do you want to put up your Venmo too? Or
I
Just
wish,
kidding.
but we just visit our website www.avoca.ai. Exactly. There's a Calendly that books right into the me and my co-founder, and we will have a conversation, and we'll see if our product is the right fit for your business.
Sounds
Love
good.
it.
But before we go, we do have one last question.
Oh yes.
Go ahead,
Evan?
bud.
No, you got this one. By all means.
Tyson, what is one question that you wished people would ask you more, but they don't?
Oh, one question I wish people asked me more. Um, hmm. This is about just general or about the
Anything you want.
business?
Anything you want.
Yeah, I think I wish people would ask me more about I'd say about my hobbies. I'd say is probably the biggest thing because I have a lot of random interesting hobbies that I've collected over the years, but I feel like no one really talks much about them. I used to be really into magic tricks. Used to be a magician.
Oh
I
shit.
actually had a stint where I was a stand-up comedian for around a year. When I first graduated, I moved to New York. I like to do. I'm a certified sailing guy, so just I'd say I feel like people always just want to talk about AI and ask about the business, but I feel like I really like to talk about random hobbies, and I feel like I have a lot of random interests in random aspects. So that's probably the thing that I wish people ask me more about.
I kind of want
Including
to ask you to
aliens.
do, yeah, I kind of want to ask you to do a magic trick right now on the show, but
Don't know if you have a deck of cards beside you.
yeah.
Um,
He's like pulls
Actually,
one out. Yeah,
I,
he's like,
I,
I do.
just rabbit. I will
look
ask you
behind
this
you right
though,
now. Look in your pocket right now.
Right?
right? Oh my gosh, it's the Avoca business card. No, I will ask you this, and it won't be the typical thing that comedians get asked, which is tell me a joke. It will be, what was the greatest lesson you learned while being a stand-up comedian?
Hmm.
Mm, yeah, I think honestly the biggest because everyone thinks that stand-up comedy is all about being funny in the moment, and obviously there's an element to that, but I think the biggest lesson is actually the importance of preparation
Hmm.
because I think I would say 90% of stand up is actually all the work that you put in behind the scenes to prep a joke. You have initial concept. You have to tweak it. You have to tweak it 100 times, 500 times, get the timing right, and all those little things to really deliver a funny joke, and think about the audience too. So I would say, yeah, the biggest lesson is actually the importance of strong preparation.
Love that.
Mhm.
And that's
Yeah.
I had listened to a Success Magazine audio with Jerry Seinfeld
Mm-hmm.
back in the day, and he talked about never break the chain. Was a concept that he talked about because he put up a calendar on his wall,
Oh
and
yeah.
every single day he had to
That's
write,
right.
and he would just
Yeah.
write jokes, whether they
Yep.
made sense or not, whether they ever made it into an act or not. He had to write something, and then he
Yeah.
would mark an X on the calendar, and it makes what looks like a chain when you look at a calendar. And he
Yep.
never broke the chain. He wrote every single day.
Consistency.
Being
Yeah.
able to tell that story and to have that preparation and to be an amazing storyteller, I think is really what stand-up comedy is all about. Crowd work is fun and being
Yeah.
quick and witty and all of that, but the
Yeah.
story is so
Yeah.
vital.
Absolutely. I think that's a great way. And it's so I think even I was one of our so we were in the startup program called Y Combinator, and the president is this guy Gary Tan, who's also somewhat popular YouTuber, and he said the same thing, which is that his first 200 videos uh, had like 10 views, and then
Right.
one day, but he just kept making every week. He just forced himself to make a video, And eventually one of them popped off. And then it's like, but then when you look at him, it's like, oh, but you already have 200. So it took a while for him to hone the craft. But yeah, that consistency is really what got him there.
Well, you look at there's history's riddled with those examples. I mean, you can look the most famous one is Thomas Edison. Well, 1,000 ways to make a light bulb. Well, he knows 999, or maybe it's 10,000, whatever the number
10,000.
is. Like 10,000, right? And so there's just so many different ways. Like insert any almost successful person. I mean, some people the one and dones, but most successful individuals in that regard that have put in a lot of work and have had a lot of failures too.
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to be prolific. You have to be prolific.
Yeah. To be the 10-year overnight success.
There you go. There you go. So, well, perfect. Thank you, Tyson, for taking the time to chat with us. It was great conversation, great insight. Can't wait to look into your software and even demo it for ourselves as well. So super exciting stuff. So, and of course, and until next time,
cheers.
Cheers. Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, two quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of this show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.